What's happening, everybody? This is my first installment of Game Changer Plus. What is Game Changer Plus? Game Changer Plus episodes are going to consist of me giving my takes on anything and everything that I've learned over the course of the past 6+ years of listening to and speaking with members of law enforcement and members of the general public. A lot of people ask me questions about my experience. And whether they ask me those questions or not, there's a lot of information I want to share, a lot of things I want to get off my chest. These are my personal takes. These are my personal opinions based on factual occurrences or factual information that's been shared with me by members of law enforcement. So I'm hoping that you'll enjoy each episode. And if you disagree, if you have further questions based on things that I've said, just leave comments in the sections here in YouTube. And periodically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those comments and questions and address them. And there'll be episodes based on me answering those questions. All right. So this first episode really is going to focus on how Game Changer came to be. A lot of people ask me, how'd you create this? What was the inspiration behind it? And usually those questions are posed to me, off camera, via phone, just talking casually. So let me take you back to, I want to say 2015. 2015, I am living in San Diego, and it's around the same time, 2014, 2015, it's around the same time that California was going through marriage equality. Instagram was not popping like it's popping right now. There was no Snapchat. There was no TikTok. Facebook was pretty much social media. There was Twitter, but what I remember most about that period of time is how many Facebook users were in favor of marriage equality. A lot of people had taken their profile pictures and, put a I don't know, maybe it's a filter of the rainbow flag. So people were really, really in favor of marriage equality. Obviously, they were in favor of it because it passed. At the same time, though, there was a spate of unarmed Black men being shot and killed by white police officers. I shouldn't even say men all the time because a lot of them were boys. Some of them were below the age of 18. I know a lot of people like to point to Trayvon Martin, and they point to Trayvon Martin during Game Changer events. And I have to point out that Trayvon Martin was not shot and killed by a police officer. He was shot and killed by a private citizen. But that particular incident, and how George, something about the name George, right? I don't even remember his last name. Maybe it was George Martinez or whatever his name was. He's found not guilty. He didn't commit a crime. But when you look back at Philando Castile and Walter Scott, what got me most, what sent me over the edge, so to speak, was Tamir Rice. And I've said this multiple times. Tamir Rice was a 12-year-old boy playing in a park by himself with a toy gun. And as is typically the case, someone called it in. And in other episodes, we'll talk about those calls that law enforcement received. But someone called 911 saying there was a black boy, black man, however they described him, waving around a gun. And if my memory serves me correctly, the caller might have said they didn't think it was a real gun. don't hold me completely accountable on the 911 call. But what happened after that? Within 2 seconds of pulling up to this kid, 2 white cops got out of their car and shot and killed him. What bothered me most about that, other than a 12-year-old little boy getting shot and killed, was when you take the totality of what was taking place at the time, this black man getting shot and killed, that black man getting shot and killed, this black kid getting shot and killed, all by white cops. The predominance of people who I spent time with in San Diego were white, whether they were friends or acquaintances. And I know they saw the same things I saw on the news, and they didn't have anything to say about that. It was as if it didn't happen. But they were pro-marriage, pro-gay marriage, which is fine. It's fine to be pro-gay marriage. I was in favor of it. You want to get married? Knock yourself out. But to ignore what was happening to the lives of people that look like me, at the hands of people that look like you, to ignore that, that was deeply, deeply disturbing to me. And I knew why it was happening. I knew why those same people who had such a passion for supporting gay rights and gay marriage had nothing to say about what was taking place with African-American males was quite simple. They had gay friends, plural. They were familiar with gay people. They had gay friends, might have even had gay family members. And human nature is you want to support and defend people who mean something to you, people who you care about. And that's what was happening. But if you don't have any black friends, or if I'm your only black friend, and in most cases, I'm your acquaintance, I ain't your friend. You and I both know that. I don't have a lot of friends, and that's by design. Tons of acquaintances, very few friends. The average white person in this country doesn't have black friends, or they have one. Like Chris Rock has this joke that he had during his stand-up many, many years ago. He said, you know, all of my black friends have a bunch of white friends. All of my white friends have one black friend. And that's the typical experience in this country. You know, we live in a segregated country. The country was formed on segregation and all those things that keep us apart and divide us. And so if you don't have friends in some particular ethnic group or some particular religious group, you're not going to have any compassion for them. You can't relate to them. I'm not going to say you don't see them as people, but if you don't spend time with those people on a regular basis, it's easy to shrug your shoulders and say, well, good luck to them. You don't do that with friends. And so it was the combination of the deaths themselves and the circumstances surrounding the deaths and the hundreds, if not thousands, of white friends and acquaintances. And yes, at 54 years old, living in this country, I know thousands of white people, thousands, that really couldn't care less and had nothing to say about what they were seeing happening to people who look like me at the hands of people who look like them. And I went through this process of dealing with that, of looking in the mirror, being frustrated, being angry, being sad, crying, and taking time to process and vent about what I was seeing and what I was feeling. I even had a friend at the time, we're not friends now. If you live long enough, you'll know that this train ride you're on in life, people get on and off all the time. And that's why I have no problem with people who get off. Some people are shown the door off my train. And that's cool. It's part of life. Not everybody's going to make it with you to your final destination. And depending on where you're going and what your aspirations are and what you've been called to do, more likely than not, on a personal level, you're going to reach your destination by yourself. It's a lonely journey. Professionally, you will have assistance. You don't get anywhere in life by yourself, but I digress. So after I was done venting, I thought to myself, I have to do something. I don't know what that something is going to be, but based on my experience as a coach on the collegiate level and a player on the collegiate level, I knew that any problems that exist between people, different groups of people, the only way you're going to solve those problems is by coming together and addressing first, is there a problem? What is the problem? Identifying the problem, and then talking out various solutions to how that problem can be solved, and identifying the skills and knowledge base of the various people who have come together to address this problem so that they can apply their level of expertise to help solve this problem. So for example, in the sport of football, the problem is there's a game coming up and we need to win it. That's not how most people look at games, but let's just keep it in context. The upcoming game is a problem. And the solution to that problem is winning the game. How are we going to do that? Coaches get together, they map out a game plan. They may not always agree on every single point of the game plan, but at least we know that everybody in that room is doing their part to work toward a solution, same solution. And that solution is we're trying to win this game. So then they come up with the game plan, share the game plan with the players in each position group, saying, this is what is required of you in your position to help us win this game. Now, like Mike Tyson said decade ago, 2 decades ago, everybody has a game plan until they get hit in the mouth. So that's the beauty of sports, of good coaches, is that you can have a game plan, and if it's not working, you make adjustments during the course of the game. And hopefully those adjustments and the talent of the coaches, the talent of the players will allow you to overcome adversity during the game and you win the game. So with that in mind, and also knowing that as a former player and as a former coach, that sports brings people together. Whether it's the people that are in the stands coming to watch the game, coming from all different walks of life, different backgrounds, different religions, different cultures. You know, if you're a Laker fan, you come into the game to watch the Lakers win. English doesn't have to be your first language. And I love that about going to Laker games. I see Asian, I see Latino, I see Black, I see white, I see Muslim, I see everything there. And for that 2 hours and 30 minutes, the home crowd wants the Lakers to win. They're high-fiving during good plays. They're cussing during bad plays. And at the end of the game, if the Lakers win, we're high-fiving, hugging, and celebrating the fact that the Lakers won. But then everybody goes back to their separate silos. But during that period of time, we did come together and we were working toward a common goal, We're all working toward a common goal. Lakers are trying to win. The fans are doing their part by providing moral support to help them win. But it's also the players that come together. You know, when you're assembling a team, sports is truly one of the only merit-based professions that we have in our society. Possibly music. Well, definitely music. I mean, if you're a good bass player, and unless the group that you are trying to get a gig with is racist, they don't care what the bass player looks like, male or female. They shouldn't. Can you play? Are you really, really good at playing the bass? And if you are, you're better than everybody else that has auditioned, you should get the gig. Food brings us together. Food, music, sports, tragedy brings us together. My expertise is in sports, professionally. Music, food, tragedy. I experience all of them, but I'd say I'm an expert when it comes to sports. So I thought to myself, what if we were able to bring police officers and members of the general public together around a sporting event and talk? Like, there's a problem here. And I thought that sports would be the best way to get people to kind of set their differences aside and bring the anxiety level, if you have some, down, to come to, at the time, you know, I was living in San Diego, you know, Petco Park, Qualcomm, San Diego State games, my alma mater, go Aztecs. We're going to go to a sporting event and address a societal issue before the game. And then when we're done, having what would at times prove to be passionate, emotional conversations, then we can go to the game and communicate in an environment that is really identical to what friends do. You know, most of you who are watching this video, you know, when you go to a sporting event, you're watching the game, but you're talking with your friends. You're having a good time with your friends. And if it's baseball, there's a lot of time to drinking games. I mean, it's a social event, going to a baseball game with friends. So that was my thought process. Let's use sports, something that brings people together anyway, to bring people together to address this issue. But I also thought to myself, if I'm able to convince athletic departments, professional baseball teams, football teams, basketball teams, hockey teams, soccer teams, NASCAR, which hasn't happened yet, to open up their doors to allow us to address a societal issue. Number one, it would probably be the first time that they've done something like that, particularly with this particular societal issue. And secondly, it was a way to bring corporate America to the table to address a societal issue that has plagued this country for centuries. What if we were able to do that? Get corporate America involved in addressing and solving this issue by allowing them to open up their doors for civic engagement. And if they really like what they saw, put corporate sponsorship dollars behind it. So that was my thought process. But I didn't know if it was a good idea. It sounded like a good idea to me because it really didn't come from me. It came from, remember I told you I was venting and thinking, but I was also doing a lot of praying. like, God, what could I do to address this issue? And so what came to me was Game Changer. I'm not going to take credit for it. I think, well, not I think, I know that the idea came from above. For those of you who don't know me, God, Christ are at the center of my life. So whatever I do, I pray first. May not be your thing. Matter of fact, most people watching, it's not your thing. That's fine. You do you. This is what has worked for me in my life. So what I began doing then, I began reaching out to people that I knew were experts in either collegiate athletics, professional sports, media, and law enforcement. Okay? So if I never asked you what you thought about this concept called Game Changer, there's a reason for that. You're not an expert in one of those disciplines I just mentioned, or we're not close enough on a personal level, or both. So I reached out to people that I have a high level of respect for on a personal and a professional level. Archie Griffin, two-time Heisman Trophy winner in college football, the only two-time Heisman Trophy winner in the history of college football, was my former boss at Ohio State. Also reached out to Clark Kellogg. He is the face of March Madness. Reached out to those two men. Just happened to be that they are African-American, but if one or both of them was my boss and we had the relationship that we had on a personal and professional level that I had with both of them, didn't care about skin color or gender. And you'll see that to be true as I continue to share this story. Got their input. Clark, Archie, what do you think about law enforcement, community residents, before a game, talking about problems, devising solutions together, and then going to the game afterwards? Sean, I think that is an outstanding idea. Really? Oh yeah. If you're ever able to pull that off, I think it'll work. Okay. Shout out to my freshman year roommate in college, Brian Jones, called it Brian. Brian, an attorney, Secretary of Education, the first Black Secretary of Education in the history of our country. Rod Page, I believe. So Brian, attorney, Secretary of Education, got out of that, before he retired, he was the president of Strayer University. I knew we'd be working with various colleges if things went well. Brian, what do you think of this? Shep, I think it's a great idea. Really? Yeah. So I kept asking various people who were not inside of law enforcement, and lo and behold, except for one person, shout out to you, Ronnie Thompson, who didn't know if it was a great idea. He said, how are you going to convince people to do this? How's this different from anything else? And Ronnie is the only person who has some doubts. Everybody else that I spoke to thought it was an outstanding idea. Now, here comes the big hurdle: law enforcement. It just so happened that I had a very good relationship with the assistant chief of police in San Diego at the time that I met her. Her name is Shelley Zimmerman. And we met randomly at a celebration for my now deceased very good friend, Father Henry. He was the pastor at St. Jude. St. Jude's in San Diego. He was celebrating 25 years in the clergy, and Father Henry strategically made sure that I sat at the table with law enforcement. And it just so happened I was sitting next to Shelly, and we started talking, and we discovered that we had this Ohio State connection. She's an Ohio State alum. I coached there for 3 years, went to the Final Four, have a Final Four ring from coaching at Ohio State. Have a Big East championship ring from coaching at Ohio State. So we hit it off right away, and we kept communicating. Sports bringing two people together. Long before came up with this game changer concept. I received this game changer concept, I should say, from above. So I remember I'm on the 8 freeway in San Diego. My phone rings, and I look at Shelly, and I have to admit, I was not good at keeping up with current events in San Diego, especially when it came to politics. Shelly was calling to tell me that she was no longer the assistant chief of police, that she had become the chief of police. I was like, oh, wow, great. Congratulations. Sean, if there's anything you need, let me know, blah, blah, blah. And I remember hanging up the phone, very happy for her. And then it dawned on me, I said, well, I have a great relationship with the chief of police. I've lived in 7 different cities in my life. I've never had a relationship with the chief of police. Didn't think anything of it. But we remained in contact between the time we met at Father Henry's celebration, 25 years in the clergy, up until that point, up until the day that I said, Shelly, I have this concept that I want to share with you. It's called Game Changer. Can I send you a white paper? She said, yeah, send her the white paper. I checked back with her in a couple of weeks. Can we go to lunch? Absolutely. Let's talk about it. We meet downtown. We meet at the Yard House. I don't know if it's still there in San Diego, but we meet at the Yard House. Neither one of us drank any alcohol. She came in uniform, and she pulls out the white paper. She brought it with her. She laid it on the table, and she said, Sean, I get it. I love it. Let's do it. Just like that. Just like that. It helped that she had a clear understanding. She's a rabid Buckeye fan. I don't know of any other type of Buckeye fan. She's a rabid Buckeye fan who happened to be in law enforcement. And little did I know at the time that law enforcement has had difficulty bringing people to come and communicate with them, especially low-income residents and low-income residents of color. There's a lack of trust. She got it. Let's do it. I didn't have any money, not a dime. But up until that point, now it's 2016. Up until that point, we had been, as an organization, doing a homeless outreach program, remodeling homes of disabled veterans, teaching low-income middle school children of color the importance of healthy lifestyle habits and cultural acceptance. That's what our nonprofit had been doing before Game Changer was born. I also want to give a shout out to Ken Cusway and Mark Crozier. Mark Crozier, retired police chief. Ken Cusway, just a good guy. White guys. Now, Mark's opinion mattered a lot to me. And I can't remember, no, right. I spoke with Mark when Game Changer had gotten off the ground. I take that back. No, I didn't. When I met Ken introduced me to Mark. And the first day I met Mark, as a former police chief, what came out of his mouth was mind-blowing to me. It brought tears to my eyes. Here's an older white guy who was a police chief on the federal level and on the local level, telling me about the problems inside of law enforcement with white police officers. And one of the things that he said was, most of them are a bunch of idiots. Not most of law enforcement. The 2%, 2 to 5% of law enforcement who cause all of the problems inside of that profession. He talked to me about the racism inside of law enforcement. He talked to me about the racist Klan member in his family. This is the first day I met him. And he said to me, I think your program's going to work and I want to be a part of it. Stayed in contact with him. Now, what happened after I met those two was pretty typical. I have a great idea. How am I going to launch it? When am I going to launch it? I don't have any money to launch this. And I want to give Kenny and Mark all the credit in the world of saying, Sean, just do it. Just do it. Figure out how to just do an event. Don't worry about the money. People like you. You know a lot of people in San Diego. You've been here for 20 plus years. Figure it out. And that's what I did. I made phone calls to people that I knew. Shelly told me, don't worry about officers being there. I'll make sure the officers are there. I had to go get community members to participate. I had to figure out how I was going to collect data, because it's important to collect information, not just about the people who are participating, but as a former coach, as a former strength and conditioning coach, we always took baseline measures of different points of strength and agility. You implement your program, and periodically you test and see, is what I'm doing working? Is athlete A getting bigger, faster, stronger as a result of what I'm asking them to do in the weight room, on the field, track? And I knew that in order to justify the existence of this program, I was going to have to show that what I'm doing is working. Not all nonprofits have to do that. Most of them don't. But I knew what I was up against, not just because of the program that I had, but I'm a Black male running a nonprofit asking a predominance of white people for money. That's not an easy endeavor, and I'm going to have everything at my disposal to show those folks that what I'm doing is not only effective, but it's worth them investing their time and their money, and that I'm trustworthy. All of these things are going through my mind before we even do one event. I called my good friend at KPBS, Nancy Worley. Shout out to you. Formerly Nancy Campanella. That's how long we've known each other. And she arranges for us to have our first game changer event, the focus group portion, inside the multi-purpose room at KPBS on San Diego State's campus. I don't remember who I spoke to with the men's basketball team. It might be Matt Soria. Shout out to you, Matt. I don't remember how we met, Matt, but they donated tickets to the game. So we're going to have this discussion at KPBS and then walk over to the game. And that first event was eye-opening, a little tense. We had officers in the room that didn't really want to be there, but Chief Zimmerman kept her word. She showed up. The president of the San Diego Police Officers Association, which is their union, Brian Marvel, he showed up. They made opening remarks, and then they left. They left so that their officers, some of them were sergeants, so that they could speak freely and not feel like they had Big Brother looking over their shoulder, even though the cameras were rolling. I made sure that I recorded everything. And you could sign a waiver whether or not you wanted to be on camera, but I wanted to document everything. What was being said? What are the most popular topics of conversation? You know, and I heard some things there I never heard before. You know, this is my first time. It was my first time sitting with members of law enforcement, Black, couple Black, mostly white. The community residents were Black, white, and Latino, because that's how I roll. I know people in every single ethnic group. I'm exaggerating, but Black, white, Latino, Asian, Muslim, Christian, Jew, atheist, agnostic, that's who's in my life. That's the life I've created for myself. Those people were represented in that room. And it was the first time I heard a Black cop talk about being called the N-word in uniform by white people that backed the blue. You know, that's the ethnic group in our country that is really pro-police. And the data that we've collected bears that out. Back the blue. But if you're a Black cop in a blue uniform, you're the N-word. I'd never heard that before. But that cop was honest, open, and transparent enough, shout out to you, Pastor Kai, to say that in a room full of cops and a room full of people who weren't cops. When we were done with that first focus group, we then went over to the game. And it was at the game that I knew that I had something, because I watched, in particular, a white cop and a Black male that were at the focus group. They were watching the game and they were talking about their favorite bourbon. They were spending time as human beings. I had some cops say, I've never been to a college basketball game before. I saw people interacting as people after just spending 3 hours with one another, having conversations that at times were not comfortable to have. It was at the game that I knew that we had something, that could work, and that people invested their time and their resources into it and really wanted to bring about change. Could be something transformative. So it was December 12th, 2016, Game Changer event number 1 launched. 6+ years later, 143 events later, so we just did our 144th Game Changer training event with the Los Angeles Angels. We are now accredited in the state of California by 2 different entities: the California Commission on Peace Officer Standards and Training, which is the state body that oversees training for over 88,000 members of law enforcement in the state of California. Not every single police officer in California is a member of Post and has a Post ID. So that number of 88 could be higher, actually. And then standards and training for corrections, which includes parole officers, probation officers, and correctional officers that work in prisons. That was not part of my white paper, by the way. So the white paper started out very simply, but since the idea wasn't mine, I received the idea. It has turned into a tool that utilizes community residents to train members of law enforcement, to formally train members of law enforcement and corrections in the state of California, while those community residents are receiving education and information from members of law enforcement. So that's my story. That's how Game Changer started. There's a lot of different components to that story that I'll be tapping into to produce more content in this new Game Changer Plus format. So I'm going to post this on YouTube. I hope you like it. Please comment on it, whether you agree with some things I said, you disagree, tell me why. Just don't say this stinks. Tell me why it stinks. Or if you like it, tell me why you like it. I don't know what episode number 2 is going to be, but I'm going to focus on data points, solutions that we've come up with, things that I've heard straight from law enforcement, things that I've heard from people in the community. I hope you'll like my personal takes on what I'm doing in a professional environment, because when I'm moderating Game Changer training events, very rarely do I talk about how I feel about X, Y, or Z. My job is to stimulate conversation, make sure that people are being respectful, being as neutral as I possibly can. That's my job as the founder of Game Changer and moderating. Game Changer Plus is about my opinion on what I've heard and what I've seen. And that's not neutral. So if you're interested in my non-neutral takes and my non-neutral self, you'll like Game Changer Plus. You may not always agree with me, but if you don't, I just want to know why. And then we can have a conversation based on that. And some Game Changer Pluses, I will be having guests and we will be having conversations about how we feel about a number of things. I'm going to try my best to keep it focused on my work and my career, which is law enforcement, community relations. So if you like this, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you get notified when we're coming up with another Game Changer Plus or Game Changer traditionally related content. Thanks for tapping in.